What's up, and welcome back to another episode of the Injured List podcast. I'm your host, Brian Scott, bringing you expert medical insight and analysis from inside the medical tent. We've officially hit the midway point of the NFL season, and as expected, the injury list is starting to grow fast. Week 9 gave us plenty to unpack, with several key players going down, some trying to battle through lingering issues, and a few on the verge of returning just in time for the Week 10 stretch. In this episode, I'll break down the biggest injuries from Week 9, what happened, what it means from a medical standpoint, and how these situations could impact teams and fantasy football lineups heading into Week 10. So whether you're tracking your favorite team, managing a fantasy roster, or just love understanding the game beyond the box score, you're in the right place. Let's get ready to suit up, check in, and head inside the medical tent for your Week 9 injury recap and Week 10 NFL preview.
Please welcome the host of the Injured List podcast, Brian Scott. This episode is brought to you by ILP Sports Consultants, where athletes and organizations get personalized injury guidance and support. Learn more at ilpsports.com.
All right, some housekeeping things to take care of. Got to thank our sponsors. They help keep the show going, and we wouldn't be here without them. First off, the Injured List podcast is powered by ILP Sports Consultants, my company, by the way. With ILP Sports Consultants, you get expert sports injury concierge services. We help get you back on the field so you can be at the top of your game. Visit www.ilpsports.com for more information. SeatGeek. Use code InjuredListPod and receive $20 off your first purchase with SeatGeek. Get tickets to your favorite shows or sporting events. Use code InjuredListPod. Concussions in sport are a big problem, but they don't have to be. Use NeuroGuard Plus mouth guards to not only reduce the risk of concussion, but increase performance. Use code ILP Sports and get 10% off your purchase. Hey, fantasy fans, if you're tired of the season-long stress, try Fast Draft Fantasy. You draft fast, play quick, and win real prizes every week. And when you sign up, use promo code TSS for a 100% match on your first deposit up to $50. That's Fast Draft Fantasy, where every week's a new season. All right, let's kick things off by taking a look at some of the biggest injuries from Week 9, a few that could have major implications heading into Week 10. We'll start with Jaden Daniels. Went down on Sunday Night Football with an elbow dislocation. X-rays reportedly were negative, and MRI has been pending. We are waiting for the final results of that. The team says Daniels will be out indefinitely while they await some of this further testing that they're doing. At the very least, we know he had a dislocated elbow. We're hoping it's not what's called a terrible triad fracture dislocation, because those are terrible, as in the name, and those often are a surgical treatment. Now, we don't think that that's the case here. Those are typically more high-energy type injuries. It appeared that this was a very straightforward elbow dislocation. We see it a lot in sports like wrestling. At least that's where I've seen it throughout my career. However, it could happen in any sport where there's contact. As you saw in the video replay, which was quite gruesome, I might add, the elbow dislocated when he placed his arm in an outstretched position to try and brace himself while getting tackled. As a result, the elbow dislocated posteriorly or toward the back, which is the most common mechanism for that to happen. Best case scenario, it's a straightforward dislocation, no fractures or injuries to the joint, and he can rehab this and be back actually probably much quicker than people even realize, because it's his non-throwing arm, which is huge. He can play with a brace on. We've seen players do that at the defensive positions and offensive positions, like on the line. So I don't think this necessarily is a season-ending injury. We'll have to unpack more of the information as it becomes available later this week. So stay tuned. It will require at least a several week absence. My guess is anywhere between a minimum of 2 to a maximum of 4 weeks if it is that straightforward scenario. Anything more significant than that, however, and this potentially could be season ending. Speaking of season ending injuries, Tucker Kraft, unfortunately, was confirmed on Monday that he suffered an ACL injury to the knee. He is done for the year. It was a contact injury, not a non-contact injury. So he got rolled up on by a defensive player as they were trying to make a tackle. And the mechanism with which the injury occurred was a very classic type of contact type ACL injury. So unfortunately for Tucker Kraft, given that we are here in week 9, this puts a substantial portion of next season into jeopardy. He'll likely begin the season on PUP IR. Whether he makes it back before a certain point in time in the season will really depend on what is done surgically and how his rehab progresses. Again, with ACL injuries, minimum 9 to 12 months, sometimes a little bit longer if there are any other injured structures in the knee that will have to be addressed during surgery. Speaking of knee issues, Garrett Wilson's coming off a bye week, and I anticipate that we'll see him ramping up activity in preparation for a return. Never quite fully got the full extent of what his injury was. We surmised it was probably some type of sprain to one of the ligaments in the knee. He's had plenty of time to rest now, and if it was a mild, even to moderate injury, I think we'll still see him. He may play with a brace on or some type of protective knee bandaging just to give him some additional support, but I do think this is the week where we'll see him ramp up his activity and be cleared to play for week 10. So pay attention to the Jets' papers and reports coming out of their camp. Calvin Ridley is still dealing with a hamstring issue. This has been lingering now, and he did not make a return for week 9. As we speak regularly about hamstring injuries, this could be something that lingers for several weeks more. Even a mild hamstring can carry with it several weeks worth of therapy, rehab, and rest. Problem is, you can't really mimic true game-like conditions in practice, and that puts him at serious risk for re-injury, which is very high within the first few weeks when you return to full competitions. So tread lightly with these hamstring injuries so they don't become a problem the rest of the way. Ricky Pearsall continues to be unavailable due to his knee injury, which I believe was some type of bone bruise and possibly a PCL sprain. There are a lot of concerns going around about what his status will be, but until we see him get out on the football field, we are really hesitant to give any type of timeline as to when he'll be back. Marvin Mims went down this week with a concussion. He was ruled out for the Denver Broncos. He'll have to get through concussion protocol to make his return. Same situation for Luther Burden. He did not clear independent medical evaluation and is out with a concussion and will have to get through the protocol as well. Commanders wide receiver utility player Luke McCaffrey fractured his clavicle on Sunday night and is expected to be sidelined for an extended period of time. Whether or not he needs surgery, I don't think has been determined yet, but if he does, then he's likely out for the season. Even without surgery, there's a chance that this could cause him to miss the rest of the season, as even whether you have surgery or not, the timeline typically remains at approximately 6 to 8 weeks, especially given that he's a skilled position player. So stay tuned for more information on this. DeAndre Swift missed week 9 with a groin injury. He was ruled out for Sunday late last week. It remains to be seen whether he'll be available this coming week. It does sound like it was not a major injury and it was more of a precautionary move to get him prepared for week 10. So I do anticipate that we'll see him make a return. Aaron Jones injured his shoulder this past week and left the game on Sunday, was diagnosed with an AC joint sprain, or essentially what's called the separated shoulder in layman's terms. Reports indicate that it was a mild sprain. They don't anticipate he'll miss much time. So this potentially could see him back by week 10, maybe week 11. Ramondre Stevenson was ruled out again for week 9 with this toe injury that he's been dealing with. I, again, am hesitant to give a timeline when we see him back until we see him on the practice field. This is similar a la Brock Purdy territory now. We'll have to see what he's able to do. Sam Perrine suffered a high ankle sprain and exited the game on Sunday. According to Bengals head coach, Perrine suffered this high ankle sprain, will need a couple weeks to recover, which is not unusual. Typically, players are rushed back way too soon with this injury, and they can take sometimes up to 4 to 6 weeks to kind of make a full recovery. Although if it is a mild injury, it's possible that he could be back in a couple of weeks. Speaking of Brock Purdy, he continues to deal with this turf toe type variant, and Kyle Shanahan continues to put out more mind-boggling information about what is going on with him. First, he called the matter sensitive. Now he's saying that this is going to be managed week to week and will likely linger well into the season and not fully heal at all. So surprise, surprise, this is what we've been saying all along, that if in fact it is a true turf toe injury, it is not going to get better with rest and will require some surgery. So we are thinking that this is probably going to happen in the offseason. And for whatever reason, they are just delaying everything in hopes that he can make a comeback. Should Mac Jones go down, seeing as how he's been playing injured all year as well, but he's been effective, so they kept him in an attempt to try and get Brock Purdy healthy, which is not going well and likely won't, given all the information that keeps coming out on a week-to-week basis here. Now, he has been doing stuff at practice, which is surprising because he's not getting better, yet they keep putting him out at practice. It tells me that this probably is a real turf toe injury, and if they keep trying to throw him out there and it's not getting better, they're just creating this vicious cycle that's not going to be fixed before the end of the year, and possibly without having some type of procedure to address it. So we'll stay on this story each week. Kyler Murray missed his third straight game on Monday Night Football as he was listed as out with this foot sprain, and this is even after coming off a bye week, so I'm still not quite sure of the severity here or the exact extent of the injury, but not good news for Kyler Murray fans and for the Cardinals. He will remain a watch and carry a questionable tag each week until we see him out there again at practice, ramping up his activity. I expect that he'll get a full practice in before they're committed to clearing him and saying that he's active. However, in the last couple weeks, even with some limited sessions throughout the week, they continue to keep him out. That's going to wrap up this week's episode of the Injured List podcast. Of course, we've got a lot more athletes to cover, and we will get to them later in the week on the other shows that we do, namely with Dan Mader at Fantasy Sports Advice Network on Operation Domination. You can catch that show out on Fridays, as well as with TSS Fantasy on Friday nights and again on Sunday mornings with last-minute injury updates. Thanks for tuning in and taking the time to step inside the medical tent with me. As we head into Week 10, make sure you're keeping a close eye on those injury reports and practice updates. Things can change fast as players work their way back onto the field. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and share it with your fellow football fans or fantasy league mates. And for those of you looking for expert guidance on sports injury management, athlete support, or team consulting services, please check out my company out at ILP Sports Consultants. We provide personalized professional insight to help athletes, teams, and organizations stay healthy and perform at their best. You can learn more at www.ilpsports.com or reach out to me directly at ilpsportsconsultants@gmail.com. Once again, I'm Brian Scott, and I'll see you next time right here on the Injured List podcast, where we keep you informed, educated, and ready for game day.